I am here with Susan Ibitz, who is the behavior hacker, the human behavior hacker. We should have we should have had you update your title on the on the actual live, because I know you have very many roles and very many skills that ultimately prove themselves to be useful.
I have a head. I should be using different hats. So
Yeah.
nobody wear only one hat. So I think that when you own your own firm, and in my case, I own five. I don't know what Kulea was drinking. You wear every hat. And if you're going to be successful, you need to know how to do absolutely everything because nobody's indispensable and everybody's indispensable. So if you want to be successful, you need to know when to reply in an email, to make a website. So
Isn't that the
life
hardest
life
part?
wise, we wear every hat. And professionally, I have many too.
That's the hard part specifically, because it becomes then an exercise in determining which tasks are sort of necessary for you to learn the inner workings and all the components that ultimately ladder up to complete that task, because you have to be able to still evaluate whether the person you put in that role is proficient. So that absolutely, I think, is the $1 million question that all entrepreneurs want to know. So if you find the
Well,
answer,
people
you let me
pay
know.
more for creativity and soft skills that are people skills, communication, how to talk, how to relate with others, more than for hard skill. You can be graduated from Harvard and be graduated from a normal or less known college, and you ended up having the work because you're coming from college because you're adaptable. People don't want things that are rigid. Law firms, and in this case, since is the majority of your audience, they don't want somebody that is rigid and is not going to be able to adapt to crisis. Because when we were talking before, when somebody come to a law firm, are in crisis. Nobody wake up in the morning and says, "Oh, I want to talk to a lawyer." You ended up with a lawyer for many reasons, but none of them are extremely pleasant. From a testament, M&A, divorce, conflict, whatever, is a conflict happening. So you need someone who is empath, who can understand, who can talk to you in a language that you understand because there are different dictionaries. You have a dictionary, I have another dictionary, it has nothing to do with your language, and you're adaptable. So when you adapt, when you can adapt to the clients, you can adapt to everything. And you need to adapt in a law firm because when you have a deposition or you have a lawsuit and you have a deadline, everybody stay until 5 o'clock in the morning to get things done. I work with crisis. When people call me, it's because the thing hit the fan. So we need to get on time. When I need to hire someone, and says the first thing is like, do you pick up your phone after 5 p.m.? He says, no, I don't continue the
Hmm.
conversation. It's not to be mean. It's like we have crisis. You get paid for crisis. Sometimes we need to talk work on Sundays. Well, Sundays I take it for myself. I would love to take it for myself, but life today happen when you're too busy making plans.
So that let's put a pin in that one specifically. Uh, I know we had some specific things we wanted to discuss. Obviously, this is a live format, so this is, our
Bring
goal is
your
to bring an
questions.
authentic. Yeah, absolutely. Bring your questions, but our goal is to bring an authentic exchange. So Susan and I have had several conversations surrounding legal law firm operations, and we have some thoughts on the ultimately the landscape and how it's evolved. Specifically, let's face it, the catalyst is AI, and how artificial intelligence is shortening the life cycle of matters, and it's changing expectations of clients who interface with your firm. It's changing expectations of other individuals, other attorneys, maybe lateral partners or junior associates, across the board, and the expectations for how people expect to interface and work on their matters. So one of the things that we wanted to discuss is from the psychological side of the house, which is what Susan brings, and then from the technology side, I, which is the only thing that I bring to the table. If you ask me anything outside of technology, I'll defer probably to Susan. But we want to talk about the structure and how law firms will need to adapt in order to stay relevant and still be able to generate a profitable to create a profitable law firm in 2026. So, you just talked about that whole concept of the lawyer whose clients want them to be able to, they want them to be responsive at after 5 p.m. this is interesting because the Clio Legal Trends report just came out, and one of the major factors that they identified is that most consumers do want their attorneys to be able to work on weekends, holidays, and after hours.
Like a realtor.
And but the interesting thing is, and it's probably intuitively known, attorneys want to work as few hours as possible, preferably not holidays, weekends, or after hours. So
That's the
these
reason they need you to get everything done so they have more free time for the real things that matter.
right.
Clients.
So from my perspective, it's like, how can we leverage how can we leverage our knowledge? You know, the institutional knowledge that we have in our law firm is ultimately the value that our clients hire us for. But how can we leverage that? I mean, leverage technology and leverage human psychology in order to create the perception of availability, so that we can try to satisfy both of those conditions simultaneously, those competing objectives, if you will.
Well, we're going to talk about why you're never going to be replaced by AI. Don't care whatever they say. But let me tell you where I'm coming from. I was a political influence consultant for 18 years. And when I not only did politics sometimes is to work with a lawyer who want to become a judge. For example, in Boston, you cannot become a judge because people vote for you. Is your peers select you. So it's more political. It's a web of playing chess all the time. So let's understand. People who were, I always says, I take a dying horse and I make him win the derby. That's what I do with people. I do it in video. I do it in real life. I do it in any situation. One of the things that when we work with lawyers and the political setting is like how I can be myself indispensable. In this scenario of AI is not going to take your job. Your job is going to be taken by someone who knows how to use and utilize more than use AI better than you do. One of the biggest mistakes is using AI as a Google. It's a no Google search. I cannot put legal case study. I need to give a prompt. And to give a prompt, you need to know linguistic and you need to understand what you're looking for and when you ask. Actually, ChatGPT-5, they did a communication last week or this week, I don't remember, saying they're not going to go give more legal advice because the amount of error and hallucination they have. Here we go, lawyers. So you can utilize AI, you can utilize every technology to help you to be more functional. If I still doing my billable hours by hand, if I still using typing and I'm type slowly when I can dictate my debriefings, that is the right use of technology. So who adapt fast to technology, who learn how to use technology to improve and have more free time. I utilize technology, even I miss my BlackBerry and I hate technology. I don't like changes. I'm over 50. I'm the generation that didn't grow up with internet or any of this technology. I use it to simplify my life. I'm dyslexic, so typing for me is physically painful. But in the other hand, I'm a linguistic. I'm specialized in statement analysis. I study interrogation with Israeli military. I'm a former hostage negotiator too. So why use technology? I dictate my articles. I never give my articles to a ghostwriting. I dictate my articles. And then I run it to a program that I train to understand my misspelling and my misdictating, because one of the thing people don't know is dyslexic people have a speech impediment. We eat words and we say it wrong. I speak 4 languages completely fluid and I make mistake in the 4 language and pronounce wrong. So I train my AI that my team lovely find me the right one to understand what I'm saying. I'm cheating? No. Some people, the doctors usually dictate the history of the lawyers dictate for somebody type it. In this case, I give it to an AI. So using and learning what is the technology to simplify your life and simplify the life of your team is one going to make you indispensable. Some people says, well,
But let
paralegals
me
are going
add
to be
one other
replaced.
component there,
Yeah.
because I think there's one other thing that we're not discussing, which is that there are capabilities that AI has currently. which can indeed create the efficiencies that you're desiring. They can enable you to create work product at a faster pace, and in many cases more accurately, especially if you're able to take a larger corpus of information and compress the research process so that, of course, the lawyer can then review the final output and then develop their argument. So I'm not debating that. But I think one thing that we're missing is that we are not we are not taking a strategic look at our firms and the activities that we should still be doing manually. Because in my estimation is that many attorneys are looking to AI to automate all of their firm, but there are certain things that work on us more than we work on the work, right? Like there's a certain level of mental friction that actually creates fortitude and sharpens our skills as professionals. And I would argue that those tasks we should aim to keep within the realm of the tasks that we're completing, manually. I know for me, when I sit down to research topics for marketing content, I typically tend to go straight for the AI tools, but I've actually recently found that it's better for me to think about examples of questions that I've overcome for clients during the week and to start there first. So that like initial concepting phase, I actually don't want the AI to get involved in that because then it dilutes my message and ultimately becomes less
Yeah,
authentic.
because you feed the AI one of the things that we talk in interrogation, and for people to understand, when we hear on neuroscience with, again, many, many hats, more than 30 years of experience, is that the question is more important than the answer. And I ended up in the legal setting because I was hired for many years for lawyers to prep lawyers on the opening statement, more important than the closing, preparing witnesses, and reading the positions to see if people is try to deceiving you. And now I'm training, and now I moved to doing video marketing for lawyers, helping them to be more human when they need to talk to other humans or prospect. So, but the point is, the question is more important. That what we're talking about, soft skills, humanizing the relationship. When you talk to a lawyer and the lawyer tell you what is the problem and you want to look for the solution for that problem, you need to feed the AI or the technology with the right prompts. So it's not if somebody have a specific problem. For example, there are seasons for lawyers. For example, this is the season for divorces and the season for personal
Holiday
injury.
season,
There are
a lot of
seasons. So
transportation
October,
happening, visit family, and then of course a lot of people cooped up with family members who maybe they are spending more time than they typically do.
so divorce and personal injury, PIs, PI lawyers. So when we are looking to generate videos, what we use is we do use all the agents, all the scrappers, and we ask, based on the season for, we determine the lawyer, what are the 10 top questions made in blogs, these and these and these and these. Obviously, we have our own agents and we have our own scrapping because we have a research team, but we are really clear. And when we have the questions, we still review it manually to determine how to make it or to give it to the lawyer when we record with them and says, okay, the way they ask it is not the way you think that you need to explain it. When you can understand the sentiment of the questions, because people don't look for the word lawyer. I'm looking for a lawyer because my neighbor dog bite my kid. That is how you need to prompt AI. People don't look for words, people look for phrases, people look for sentiments. People look for conflict. People look for how they feel or they expect to be felt. So when the lawyers talk to them, they need to talk on the same language. When I talk to lawyers, I need to humanize them and get in ground. When you talk to a lawyers, you need to be a little harsh and says, okay, your law firm is growing. You're not going to find enough because we are shorter of people who want to become professionals. Everybody want to be an influencer when they don't understand influencers are doing less and less and less. But they don't have enough admins, they don't have enough paralegals, they don't have enough lawyers. So you start doing all this marketing and videos and things to grow, and suddenly you're not ready to success and your back end how many things you have automatized, how much time you spend on billable hours, and how many human errors you do because they don't talk with someone like you, Jay, to says, okay, this is my system. Can you audit what are the things that can be simplified, the process that can be simplified and humanized for still have a relationship with the client, but make a shorter on the amount of mistakes. I use a lot of technology to short my amount of mistakes. Why? Because beside what I do, I'm a mess. Why? Because I'm really self-focused on what I do. I'm doing beside managing 5 companies. I have 6 cats. I have a life. We have an office in London, another in Chicago, a studio in Michigan City to record with lawyers and professionals. And I'm doing another master overseas in Europe. So not only I commit to go to the London office, so I commit. So there are days when I'm living in London time because I need to start preparing for clients when I'm gonna see them there, or when I need to prep or need to be taking classes on the uni. So if I don't have technology, if I don't have AI beside an amazing team, a great group of people working with me, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I have a Jay in my life who came and did an audit and says, Susan, you're wasting, let's put it this way. We have 2 systems. We have system 1, that is Homer Simpson, that make 95% of your decisions. They're
Or
coming with
you're talking
me.
about the way that our brains operate,
That
right?
our brain operate. So we have our brain operate in 2 ways. Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize in 2002, made us aware of that. The traditional way that we think about human is wrong. So we have Homer Simpson that make 95% of the decisions. And we have Albert Einstein that make 5% of decisions. Now, as a lawyer, are you going to put Albert Einstein to change a light bulb? No.
Oh, I know. Many of my clients do, I'll say.
So that's what I'm
That's right.
saying is you can be the most intelligent person on the world. Guess what? I have an accountant who make my checks, make my payroll, and manage my finances. Because for my dyslexia, I'm tired of the bank calling me that the checks are flipped. It's $600 or $900, Susan. So I don't make more mistakes. I print the checks based on the numbers. So I automatize systems based in my needs, based in my means, and based on my Einstein and my Homer Simpson. I had a person who came and did an audit and trained everybody on the company how to maximize. So, what is more expensive? The mistakes and the human mistakes you can do burn out your people because your people is your number one client. Without your people, you're nobody. Your clients, your client think that you're sloppy and you make mistakes, or just says, hey, Jay, everything is going good, but not so good because we're growing too fast and we need help. Do an audit and have a person who come and says, hey, this is the best way to do it. This is
Sure.
the way to
Yeah.
simplify life. When people come to us and like, you know what, I'm the best lawyer on the world, I have all this recognition and accolades for that, but clients doesn't come because you're the best kept secret. So
Right.
if you're not on the media today, actually we talk about it. People need to see you 11 times in 7 channels. 50% of the Americans says they're not going to hire a lawyer, an investment advisor, even a doctor if they don't know them first. How they know you? Going to the media. How you have time to go to the media when you have things resolved? You're going to
And I
bring
and
more
I
clients.
and I think I was just reading a study. This is maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and they were sort of suppositing that there is probably that 11 number is probably insufficient nowadays just because of the sheer volume of noise and communications. So they were saying, I think they said 22 individual touches is required nowadays in order to have someone move to the stage of complete unawareness to willing to potentially work with you. But I guess that's
By the
just
way, I hate it. So when I talk to people and says, well, I says, okay, let's start with it. I hate it. I have a person in my team, Mary, my CMO, the only job is pissing my balls and says, Susan, we have more content. I did this podcast. That's enough. Chop the videos, but we need to publish 2 to 3 times a day. And don't get me wrong, Psychology Today put me up continuously as a top expert on my field. But guess what? I was a hiding secret. I needed to get, no matter how many acolytes, I need to put myself out there. Happen the same with you.
Right. Well,
That is
and
the
that's
reality.
and I think that's what, when I've talked to prospects or clients or just or attorneys that I'll meet at speaking engagements or trade shows, the overwhelming sentiment is that law school teaches you if you do good work, you will everything else takes care of itself. And I think that's the biggest logical fallacy that puts attorneys in a really difficult position, because simply doing good work, it definitely makes sure that that client has their needs taken care of. But unless you're doing things intentionally and you have a strategy in place to request referrals when you've done good work, I know that's a hard one for many attorneys. They
Yeah.
feel, oh, it's gross, I don't want to ask someone to help me. Well, it's difficult for all humans to ask for help, but ultimately, when you did a good work for someone, maybe just changing the framing on that and looking at it as, this is an ethical duty of mine to ensure that I can get in front of all of the people who are suffering from this problem, who right now need a solution, and I'm the clear answer to, I'm that solution to getting in between where they're at now and then getting there to their desired outcome. So there's
It's
that
how you
component.
ask. It's how you ask. When I have in my case, it's really difficult to ask for referrals because most people don't want to say they hire a profiler, a person like me to work with you. That's the reason we navigate in so many NDAs. So even when we're gonna have a meeting, I says we need an NDA to start a conversation. So for me, it's really difficult when to ask for referrals. But in the case of lawyers, it's not that difficult to ask for referral. So what you need to establish is asking like how you feel about how is the outcome. Not always the outcome is positive regarding that if you win, but has to do with all the process. When you're working with a lawyer, it's not only the destination, it's the journey and everyday life holding your hand. And that, don't get me wrong, one of the biggest complaints that I hear from divorce lawyers is like, I'm not a therapist. Like, well, your job is to make sure they understand they paying you for therapy when they need to go to therapy to another place. When you're working with a psychologist as a divorce lawyer and you can shift and help people to understand the emotional part to the lawyer part, you are being a good lawyer.
Right.
Listen to a
Right.
person that you cannot help is not to be a good lawyer. So if you
But
help
see
me
that
during the divorce, yeah,
the thing there though is that there's this mismatch of what your expectations for what the client actually hired you for, and
that's where come the
what
deception.
they actually hired you for, right? And there's oftentimes those things are in direct misalignment. The attorney thinks that they're being hired for their skill and their legal knowledge and their relationships with the judges or opposing counsel, and all of those things are great. But ultimately, unless you understand the ideal outcome that your client's looking to achieve, they're not hiring you for your services. They're hiring you to solve a problem that they have. And when you can reframe your mind to think about that, you are the counselor, in a family law context. That person's looking for someone to be able to help them navigate these unknown, uncharted waters for them. Because although you do this on a daily basis, you'd hope that this is someone's, first or, potentially second divorce, right? But this is not something they do every day. So they need someone to be that stable foundation who can let them know it's going to be okay. And by the way, here's where we are in the process, and here's what's next. Here's what you should expect. And
That's
that's
the
one of the
reason you
hardest
need to
things
do
to
more
realize.
education. When you have when we talk with lawyers about the kind of videos they need to do in the media, and says, okay, you have education, you have an explanation, you need to explain if you give me the vitamins or you give me the antibiotics. Vitamins is a lawyer that help you to do the testament, to make you help do a will,
Right.
prepare
This is
for
the
that is vitamin. So
preventative maintenance.
antibiotics is I'm getting divorced, I have an accident, this happened, I need solutions now. So you need to explain what kind of lawyer are you. And after that, you need to explain what you do, educate your client how to approach you, and find the right lawyer. You're not going to lose your clientele or your prospect to another lawyer when you explain how a lawyer works. Because saving your time, learning that you need to have the right clients is important too. We always talk about this, Jay. We ended up firing clients because they are not the right match with you. So educating and explaining how the process is going to work. That short the amount of time and stress in both parts, because deception coming from the perception of and the expectations and the false expectations. We have too many gurus on the media talking about things that are not working. Gary Vee and Alex Osmosi, that you have the book on the back, says the new tendency on the market, the new trend is for people over 45 talking about education and life and giving you advice. Because when you're 18 and 20, you cannot give me advice about finances and legal things. You don't have something called life experience. The devil's know for being old than being the devil. So you're never old. You can be new on a market, you can be new in an office, you can be new in expectation, but your life experience, it need to be explained and need to be exposed. So educating, marketing, and explaining, you're gonna bring the right people, and I trust you when you explain me how was the process. I always watch your videos. I love how you do it. I love the quality, but it's something that you say in one of the videos early today. It says, I'm going to be doing more videos. Maybe the quality and the production is not the same, but the content is going to be on top of the same way that I always give you content. I'm going to give you more. Why? Because the priority is informing you, educating you, not because you're uneducated. You're uneducated if you know about something and you refuse to learn it. But when you don't know, you don't know. And when you don't know, you need to go to the sources that educate you about it. Again,
Right. Yeah.
I'm overeducated. Oscar Wilde says, you're never going to be overeducated or overdressed. Both of that, thank God. And but I have lawyers like they look at you like, oh, really? Like, yes, sir. Oh, yes, ma'am. That is how it's happened. No,
Right.
but people are gonna think like, no, 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 no. You're not talking to your peers. You need to talk to human beings that they don't have any idea. They're in a lot of stress, and that's the language you need to use. Oh, I don't agree. You can agree to disagree, but that's what the studies and the data show. And you have
Right.
studies and data showing like, I'm going to say it and I'm going to take 100% responsibility. Lawyers are the slowest to adapt to new technology, to adapt to AI, to adapt to new trends and simplify their life. I don't know why, guys and ladies and gentlemen, you do the things so difficult. It's simple. You know how you simplify that? You call somebody who knows what you don't know. The same way I have a lawyer. I have a personal lawyer and business lawyer is the same. Mark Schroeder. I don't sneeze without Mark checking contracts, emails. When I have a dispute with a client, when we don't agree, I run the emails through him. Why? Because he knows, because I'm working with lawyers. Doesn't mean that I know the legal matters. What am I going to get my food in my mouth? I
But
call the
I
right
think that's
person.
the reason there. That's the reason why attorneys are hesitant to change because it's about, like you mentioned with your attorney, it's about issue spotting. I mean, that's what being a legal professional is all about. And oftentimes the path of least resistance is making no change at all, maintaining the status quo, because at least you're not introducing new criteria or new conditions. And that's something that, that's oftentimes a
I'm
safer
sorry,
route.
but that criteria and those conditions are already introduced. You have a conflict, not modernizing, not doing things automatically, not getting the things done the way they need. So the conflict is already embedded. So when you start having stress and burned out and your people start complaining and you're working more hours and you keep missing important things in the personal and business life, the balance between life and personal life is to be affected in both. Do I need to be in the doctor's appointment for my kid? No, my partner is gonna go. One parent's okay, but on the football game, I need to be. The same with your office. So when the burned out and the conflicts are happening, that is when it's already embedded in your law firm. You need a person who does the audit in order to determine what it is. And yeah, my cats agree.
Yeah.
They're comparing with that. Yes, my love,
Well,
I agree.
with that, I think so. Couple things here. This is, as I mentioned before, this is a new format for both Susan and I. I have committed to over the next 30 days increasing, as you mentioned so eloquently, Susan, increasing the output without sacrificing the quality of the content that I'm putting out. As you mentioned, education is about it being exposed to the same conditions and having different behavior. That's all education is. So that's what we're looking to bring. So if you like this style of this authentic dialogue, this discourse of one technology nerd and one human behavior and psychology nerd hanging out talking shop, then please go ahead and mention in the comments that you want more of this kind of stuff. If you don't, we'll take it under advisement as well.
And by the way, for everybody who's here, we have a case study about the new 10 trends about video and communication for lawyer, advice from Gary Vee and Alex Asmosi, and how to do 10 days of video production to start doing it by yourself if you want to try it. So in case that you want the case study, no compromise, just put case study. This is going to be replicated many times. So just put case study on the comment and we're gonna contact you and send it to you. No compromise, just Jay and I, we decide to, in a thank you note for being here with us, give you something that is concrete solutions. And Jay is going to add to like, what is the right audit when you need an expert and what question you need to start getting. So I put you to work, Jay, don't hate me.
Hey, no, this is, it's a good problem to have, as they say. So that's been it for this one. I will say this, I think next time we start off, we'll look for comments. So if there's any topics that you would like discussed involving your law firm, the psychology of the individuals that you work with, your staff, clients, and then on the technology side, make sure to drop those and we will incorporate that into future episodes. I think we discussed maybe for the next one talking about how law firms can leverage video content specifically. So I'd like to give you some tips on how you can incorporate that into your operations, into the intake process, into your matter handling process in order to create that client experience, elevate your client experience across your firm. So I think that's
and
what
you
we
need to do when
decided
you
for
start
next.
growing. And what you need to do when you start growing, if you start growing, well, you need someone who start getting on the back end and how to be ready when you grow. You know what, Jay? Something that it's surprised me with lawyers. I don't know if you have the same experience. They're ready to fail, but they're never ready to win. And when you're on the middle of winning and gaining more clients and be more successful, it's too late to incorporate things faster. You need to be prepared. You need to be ready. Like you're ready for everything. Like the same way you're prepared to go to court, the same way you prepare for a deposition, you need to be ready for success. Because when they're in the middle of the battle, you cannot be changing votes.
Agreed. All right, that'll do it for this one, folks. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.